to St Lawrence Parish Hall for our Constable Hustings. As you know, we've got two candidates for the office. So what we propose is that we'll open by each candidate speaking for approximately 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll take questions from the floor and answers from each candidate. The answers are going to be restricted to about 2 minutes ago, and hopefully the questions will be shorter. There's not much else to say. We've had a slight technical problem with the microphone tonight, so please bear with us. I guess you can hear me because I'm noisy, but if you can't hear the person asking the question or the person answering it, Lisa will run around with the only microphone we've got and help you. When you ask a question, there's no need to stand up, but if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself, and then your question, and then each candidate will answer. I think that's all I've got to say. So, without further ado, the candidates have decided that Deirdre will go first, and then Emily. So, enjoy the show.
And I'm sure you will enjoy it more than Emily and myself. So good evening and welcome to these Hustings. I'm Deirdre, Constable of St Lawrence, standing for re-election as an independent candidate with no affiliation to any political party or group. Because my affiliation is to you, the parishioners of St Lawrence, who I have served for over 20 years, as Fantinier, as deputy and as constable since 2008. And as constable, I maintain an open door policy. Easy access to your constable is crucial, so they hear you and can be your voice. It is one of the benefits of our unique parish system. But June the 22nd will be a day of change to that system. We will lose our St Lawrence only deputies and the island-wide mandate for senators. I voted against those reforms because they disenfranchised us all, and I will support their return. The changes mean that your constable will soon be your only directly elected voice in the State's Assembly. We must elect someone who has the relevant experience, skills and knowledge to speak on behalf of us all. I believe I have those qualities. Last year, I hosted the Visite Royale where, in open forum, I was questioned by the bailiff about the finances and management of the parish. The Royal Court deemed both to be in good order, and it remains so. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I maintained parish hall services. We helped parishioners of all ages through our community support team, which I set up in 2009. Working with the Honorary Police and the Roads Committee, we have improved road safety. We consulted parishioners, and a parish assembly agreed in 2020 to a reduction of 17 speed limits and the creation of several new green lanes. I have delivered our Monyard Liberation Garden and overseen improvements to the parish hall, modernising the reception and kitchen areas and creating the War Memorial Garden. The recent major renovation works came in under budget. In 2011, I met with the Planning Minister and proposed the protection of Millbrook playing fields. Thankfully, they were given the highest level of protection, with any construction needing to be approved by the State's Assembly. We faced that possibility last year, when the site was listed for the new hospital. Again, I lobbied successfully and the protected site was withdrawn. A generous parishioner has since bought the land and gifted it to the public of the island for an extension to Coronation Park. How appropriate in this Jubilee year. And I acknowledge tonight those residents living near the park who shared their concerns with me about traffic in that area. I then voiced their concerns to the Minister, securing a commitment to a traffic review of St Albans Inner Road, and, working with Centennial Hayden, we have also secured a review of the difficult traffic situation at Balroyal School. Looking ahead, I will continue to oppose inappropriate development within the parish. Working with the procureurs, we hope to deliver additional sheltered housing facilities and to create a new accessible meeting room for the parish hall. Now, by virtue of their office, the Constable is a member of the States of Jersey and must play their part. I have served as Assistant Health Minister and Assistant Home Affairs Minister. I have chaired scrutiny panels, been Vice Chairman of the Privileges and Procedures Committee, and in 2018 was elected by the Island Constables as Chairman of the Comité de Connétable. I am a member of the Planning Committee, Emergencies Council, States Employment Board, and the Bailiffs Consultative Panel. I sat on the Carbon Neutral Steering Group and worked on the carbon neutral strategy that the states adopted only recently. In the States Assembly, in our Parliament, your Constable has responsibility for making decisions that affect everyone in Jersey. COVID-19 highlighted the vital role of our dedicated frontline healthcare staff. In my view, it is essential that we continue to invest in them, to provide a healthcare system that works and leads to better life outcomes for us all. I am also determined that our education system enables every child to develop to their full potential, regardless of background. The well-being of teachers and of pupils, and particularly their mental health, is paramount. The 2021 census showed a population increase of 5.5%, and I will continue to support policies that seek to control it, to protect our natural environment, our infrastructure, and, importantly, our quality of life. I have fought to protect our valuable green spaces and our agricultural land, but I recognise that we must balance that protection against the need for first-time buyer homes. I have called for the government to release some of its vast estate towards that provision. And I am pleased to advise that the Constables are reviewing redundant glasshouse sites in their parish with a view to them being considered for first-time buyer homes. The Constables continue to work together for the benefit of all islanders. I am proud of our unique parish system, of its volunteers and the sense of community it promotes, and I offer my thanks to all who support it. It is what makes island life so special, and I will continue working to enhance it and to preserve it for future generations. I am proud to be your Constable, and I hope my proven track record of service to our parish and to our island will earn me your confidence and your vote on the 22nd of June. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Deirdre. And now Emily, who is not quite the seasoned trooper that Deirdre is.
Have a slightly short speech. Hello everyone, it's great to see you all here tonight. And my name is Emily Joseph and I'm standing for Constable for three main reasons. Firstly, I'm passionate about community building. There are so many wonderful pockets of community throughout our parish, and I wish to not only support these communities, but also work together in bringing bigger events for our celebratory days throughout the year. I want all ages to feel included and use all the assets that the parish own to their fullest potential for the benefit of everyone. For that, we need to build up the way we communicate in our parish and use every tool available to suit every generation so that everyone can feel informed and involved. Secondly, I wish to reach out to as many of the wonderful charities we have in our island. Through my own personal experience of going through many differing family health crises and hearing so many other stories going door to door, those in need of support often don't know where to turn. It is crucial for me to be involved in connecting and supporting those in need and those who are vulnerable in our parish, and advocating for those who are going through crisis. We need our own volunteer network in our parish, and I look to working closely with other constables in our island in bringing in initiatives into our own parish that are working well in other parishes. Lastly, as constable, I want my feet firmly in the parish and have as much face-to-face time with parishioners as possible so that people's voices and concerns can be heard, and many more surgeries and open parish meetings with our deputies when island-wide issues arise that affect us all. Having my degree in International Relations and Peace and Conflict Studies and my Masters in War and Human Rights Journalism, I have heavily researched governmental and multinational papers, studying aspects of law and different economic and political theory and history. I feel more than capable of standing in the States Chamber and staying informed on policy brought forward, working primarily in scrutiny so I can focus my attention on our parish. Many people have contacted me with some excellent ideas and want to be involved in new projects. It's been very encouraging to see people as enthusiastic as I am for new things to be happening in our parish. I have a wonderful support network consisting of 2 former constables and many long-standing, deeply knowledgeable and experienced parishioners who I know I can rely on to advise me on all parish matters. And of course we have the fantastic team in our office who will also keep things running smoothly as I learn all the facets of the role. We have reached a crisis point in this island in many areas, and I know that by working in collaboration with our deputies, charities, volunteers, schools, churches, businesses and all our other communities, we can make a huge difference to the lives of the people of this parish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deirdre. Thank you, Emily. The floor is now open to you. If you'd be kind enough to raise your hand when you have a question, Lisa will come to you so you have the microphone, and then each candidate will take it in turn. Emily goes first because Deirdre opened the batting, so to speak. There's a lady with a hand up down here on the right.
Good evening, my name is Susan Gary, and I have a question.
I can't hear you, I'm afraid.
My name is Susan Gary, and I represent St Lawrence. I would like to suggest that if you were to consider greater funding in palliative care, home nursing, occupational therapy as an alternative to assisted dying. I have done some research into the countries that do operate this, and the safeguards that they have in place just cannot produce. We are unable to do that. So if implemented, we will not be able to implement the safeguards. Safeguards are not a guarantee. The only guarantee we have in life is also taxes and debt. So I would just ask for your opinion on that.
I've spoken to quite a number of people going door to door on assisted dying.
Can you all hear at the back? Or do you need a microphone? You can hear me, of course, but that's no use.
Hello there. Can you hear me now? Yes, as I say, I've been going door to door and I've been speaking to a lot of people on the issue of assisted dying, and it has come up a lot, especially in these elections. For me, I think there are very specific people where assisted dying should be still left on the table with extremely heavy scrutiny. But actually, you're absolutely right. In my own experience with dealing with palliative care, we don't have that support. There is no support for people without home palliative care in Jersey. It is very limited. And relying on care workers when actually, at times, there are no care workers available in this island, and the cost of care is extremely high. I feel like we need to be looking into palliative care specifically, because we cannot rely just solely on hospice, for example, who at times is struggling with its own recruitment issues, where there are only half of the amount of beds available at given times due to staffing crisis. So for me, yes, absolutely, I think that's the best point that I've heard during my talks with people, is that we really need to support palliative care in our island. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Mrs. McGarry. And of course, I was one of the states members who voted against bringing in assisted dying in Jersey. The reason being was that I listened to parishioners. I called a public meeting here, and although not many of them turned up, the consensus was that they were not in favour of assisted dying. And one of the reasons, of course, is because of what you said, the dangers that we all perceive are likely to be involved with it. Now, I know that the states passed, in principle, the agreed in principle to go forward with assisted dying, and work is being undertaken on that. However, my view at the moment is if I am returned as Constable, I will vote again against the introduction of it within our island. Regarding palliative care, of course we do have the Jersey Hospice, as has been mentioned, which provides palliative care to end-of-life patients. And my view is that we should be able to provide that within a person's own home. Now, I haven't had experience of it, and so I am not aware of how much care is able to be delivered to us within our own home, but I do know that Jersey Hospice does extend out to our homes. So my view is that I would support additional funding towards the cost of palliative care, and also for care in general within our homes. If you look at the parish accounts, we do provide funding on an annual basis to family nursing and home care. Thank you.
Do we have a second question? We've got two hands up, so I'll come to the lady in the back next.
Hello, Karen Lompier. My question is about the climate emergency, which our government declared in 2019. And I would like to know what the candidates' views would be about how a parish should be engaged in actually engaging with the climate emergency, and what would they propose as ways in which the parish should really be actively involved in them.
Thank you, Karen. And of course, the climate emergency was supported by the States Assembly, and I voted in favour of that. And of course, I mentioned a moment ago that I was one of the States members who worked on the carbon neutral strategy. So I am aware of many of the problems that the island, but also off-island, is faced regarding climate. So what can we do in the parish? Well, the next time we look at replacing any of our parish vehicles, then we will be looking at potentially investing in electric vehicles if we are able to do that. I approached the JEC some years ago to ask them to install for us in our Monyard Liberation Garden the electric vehicle charging points, and those have been introduced. We don't have much land as a parish, but of course that belongs to us, and the use of the EV charging there is very successful. We also have reviewed our lighting in the parish hall and in other buildings, and I'm hoping, I look to Lisa, she's told me often enough that we are now on LED lights certainly within the parish hall. So what else can we do? Well, the parish is taking part in the climate discussions with, I think, about 8 or 9 other parishes, and I'm very pleased to say that I was able to ask 2 interested parishioners to represent me and thereby represent us all within that working group. They have met once, and it is being led by the Constable of St John, but they have met once and they are due to meet again in July. How did I identify those 2 interested parishioners? It was by going to the Citizens' Assembly who worked on the climate change proposals to find out who from St Lawrence had put their names forward for it and who was interested enough to be involved. And from that I got the 2 volunteers. They will be reporting back to me in due course, and I will then be able to report with them to you, the parishioners of St Lawrence. Thank you.
Sorry. Yes, Karen, hi. Well, I think there's already one thing that you've mentioned actually, which is the sort of adopt a road initiatives like they have in some other parishes, where we look to adopting a road per person to make sure that we're cleaning up after ourselves litter-wise and keeping our environment extremely clean. For me, it's very much about involving the schools and opening up community gardens so that people can learn about sustainable growing and grow our own food as well, and keeping our parish clean and safe. I think the 2 volunteers you were talking about, they've got a committee rural and a lot of other parishes who actually look to the environmental, the environment in our own parishes. So it would be good to start up committees and people interested in the environment to actually look at different ways that we can make our lanes greener and think of new ways to build climate change activities, etc. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Emily. The next question is the lady at the back who had her hand up.
Hi, I'm Delphine McCarthy. I'm 22 years old, and a lot of my friends are very concerned about affordable housing. A lot of politicians are standing, they have undertaken several terms already in the States, but they failed to bring in a working population policy. You can see in the news today that there's people in the hospital that are unable to be discharged because there's no carers for them. I'm in a relatively good job, a good salary. People on lower skilled jobs that have to come over. My concern is where are these people going to live? Because I don't think there is enough housing to support the population and the rate that it's increasing at. I also, all my grandparents were here during the occupation, and I feel essentially that the younger people that were Jersey born are being pushed out, and the politicians that have been in the States for several terms are failing the population, young people, and more needs to be done for this. And I don't see what, say, greenhouses, we can build on those. There's Cook's Rose Farm, and those aren't affordable houses, and I don't think any politician has answered honestly how housing is going to be affordable. I don't want to live in a flat. I shouldn't have to live in a flat, and it's not acceptable that that's the option I'm having. Yeah, I don't think it's fair. So my question is, how are you going to ensure there's enough affordable housing for people in the long term, and how are you going to bring in a working population policy? Because population will touch every aspect of your manifesto, whether that's education, infrastructure, climate change. It's really, really important. And I don't think enough's been done, and that's why so many young people like myself that have graduated this year are considering leaving, and it's really, really sad. And it shouldn't be like that, and if nothing's done, I think Jersey's going to have a humanitarian crisis in a decade's time, because you can see it already, cafes aren't on, some cafes just don't have the staff. That's going to start touching into the healthcare sector, and with the news today, that's obvious. That's going to start touching teaching. There's not.
I think I'm going to have to stop you there, please. So your question is about affordable housing and the population growth. Please, you go.
Again, as I've been going door to door, the amount of people who are leaving this island is incredible. I know the last census said there was an increase, but wow, I've never met so many people whose sons, daughters and grandchildren are leaving this island at the moment. And it's clear across the board with recruitment that there aren't, where have the people gone? Because we had a massive problem with having not enough jobs not that long ago, redundancies before COVID. When it comes to the affordable housing issues, we are living in a crisis, basically. The housing here is extortionate, especially in the rental market, but also our properties. I think another area that we could look for in the parish is definitely in building more sheltered housing. We're going to have an ageing population. I believe the statistic is something in 10 years we'll have 2 pensioners for every working person. So we need to be looking ahead right now into how we're going to house people. Anyone I've met who wants to downsize does not want to live in a flat. So we need to have those affordable and sustainable accommodation for elderly people who want to downsize to go into, so we can free up the market for families and for younger people who are desperate to find somewhere to live. I don't think anybody should be living in tiny little flats, basically. I don't think it's healthy for anybody of any age. And all these massive mansions that keep being built, well, really, there should be more and more houses, I think, personally. And yeah, that's where I stand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms McCarthy. You covered quite a lot of points there. But I agree that we do have a housing crisis in Jersey, and it is causing many of our young people to leave the island. And that is not good for us, either socially or economically, because we need them to be here within the island. And of course, many of them, as they leave, and I think you mentioned you're 22, you may well have been put through university by the island. And of course, we are investing in our young people, only ultimately, for many of them, to lose them because they can't find affordable housing. So what can we do to provide affordable housing? If it was an easy answer, we wouldn't be in this potentially critical situation. That's if it was easy. It isn't easy by any means. But what we can do, and you mentioned Rowley Cook's glass houses, I think what you were talking about there is a development of upmarket properties that have been developed on the field there. However, what I mentioned when I spoke earlier was that the constables are reviewing redundant glasshouse sites across the island in each of our parishes. And what we are hoping to do is to come forward with proposals, if they are suitable, for them to be developed for first-time buyer homes. That's the Connétable Committee working together to deliver that. What else can we do? Well, we can encourage the states to release some of the vast equity, some of the vast housing estate, the estate that they have is vast, and many buildings are being underutilised and potentially not used at all. In the recent Bridging Island plan debate, that was when I called for the states to consider releasing that property for potential development for first-time buyer homes. If I'm re-elected, I will continue to make that call. The other thing, of course, is we can support initiatives such as the Andium Home Buy Scheme, which supports first-time buyers and allows a deferred payment of 25% of the market value of their property. And we also, of course, need to provide or to support home buy schemes as well for the and
And
to.
we put in the working population policy, that's...
Just a moment, please. Deirdre's just finishing her thing. If you have a follow-up question, if there's nobody else, I'll come back to you. But Deirdre, it's time to stop.
Is it time to stop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Somebody said to me the other week, perhaps just last week, there seems to be quite a number of things organised in our parish for senior citizens, but there isn't anything for young people or families. And I'm wondering whether either of you have got any thoughts and plans how to organise things that will draw families and children more into the parish.
Thank you, Sue. Well, of course, on Saturday, we included children from both Balroyal and St Lawrence schools in the tree planting when we had the Deputy Bailiff here, and we planted trees in the Monyard Liberation Garden for the Queen's green canopy. In the autumn, if we get planning permission, we will also be planting a microforest, and you may well know about this as a church officer, because it is on the land that is behind the cemetery. And the idea is that the microforest will be planted there with indigenous trees, but they will be saplings, and we will be encouraging children from both primary schools to come along to plant them. And we'll also be encouraging senior citizens to do the same, to come along, plant those saplings, and to then monitor their growth and to see that they are healthy and grow as we want. Microforests are known to grow very quickly and are absolutely beneficial for our environment. What else can we do for young people? Well, what I have done is go into both schools to speak to them, to explain to them actually about parish life and the way our parish system works. Young families often, when my daughter was young, I was too busy working, to be honest, to become involved with the parish. And it was only as she got to her early teens that David and I decided to join the Honorary Police and become involved with the parish. And to be honest, I think that young families lead very busy lives. That's not saying that we can't deliver things for them within the parish. And you're right, Sue, we do provide a lot for our older parishioners. Recently, we've had a lunch for them, deferred Christmas lunch. We had Liberation lunch. As chairman of the Comité des Connétables, I introduced recently an all-island potato growing competition for our occupation VIPs. So yes, we are doing things for the older parishioners, and I do believe that we can do more. But when I mentioned this to the rector recently, he said to me, Sue, well, that is what the church is doing. So the ecclesiastical side of our parish is delivering some of this for young people, as you well know. And they have had Easter egg hunts and picnics and lorry drives. And so the ecclesiastical side of the parish works closely with the civil parish, of which I am head, and we deliver what we can when we can. However, I agree that there is always room for improvement. Thank you.
Well, as most of you know, I have young children, and I do have childcare. I'll just put that one out there. For me, actually, it's all about trying to engage everybody from all ages. So we've got this historic parish, and for me, we need to plant those seeds of having that relevance in everybody's lives from a very young age. I want to be working heavily with the schools, with the churches, with the youth groups, with basically as many people as I can be, to be putting on different events throughout the year. I would very much like to put on a big Easter egg hunt with both the schools down at Millbrook Park, have summer fetes where everybody can come out and celebrate. I feel like we need more and more social events, especially after COVID. We need those celebratory moments to really involve everybody in our parish so that everybody can feel more involved and, in fact, take part in more volunteer areas of our parish and also the roles that we need people to be involved in for our future generations. So yes, the churches do fantastic, and so do many other areas, and it's also about building that social connections and using different forms of media for all our different ages so that everybody knows all the events that are also going on, because there are fantastic things being run, but they're not particularly known through all of our parish. So it's important to build the communications we have to share everything of what everyone's doing in our parish so that we can all be included. Thank you.
Hi, Stephen Coe. Just on the subject of communication, do you think in the 21st century it's appropriate for the only way to communicate parish assemblies is to either put a notice in the Bois Relay or put a notice in the Jersey Evening Post, rather than emailing all parishioners notices of meetings and things going on?
As I touched on that, yes, absolutely. We need to really rethink the way we communicate in our parish. There's so many different generations, and by no means I don't mean to use everything on social media, because there's so many parishioners who don't use that. So for me, it's actually about seeing each generation and what best applies to them, how they like to get their information. And I feel like there should be a much wider variety of ways to communicate with everybody, so that everybody is informed and knows what's going on in our parish, especially in consideration to parish meetings, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Cohue. And of course, it's a legal requirement that parish assemblies are notified in the church notice box and also in the Gazette. We don't have to publish notices of meetings in the Jersey Evening Post because the Gazette is now online and managed through the states. However, we do choose to publish our meetings and meeting dates in the Jersey Evening Post because we know that that is one way that many people are able to be made aware of them, particularly the older generation, if I may say so. And I include myself amongst that because I read the JP every night. But it is right that we need to look to how we can better communicate everything that's going on in the parish with all parishioners. And we do that by having recently upgraded all of the parish websites. I don't know the last time you looked at the website, but some months ago it was pretty dire. They are now extremely easy to navigate, to read, and to understand. And if you sign up to it, then you will get all notifications as they are added to that website. And one of the things that we do, of course, is also try to communicate with everyone via the parish magazine. And that's produced on a quarterly basis, as you will all know. And we do, although some of it is retrospective, looking back at events that have taken place in the parish, we do try to notify you, if we are able, of upcoming events. So, for instance, I used that as the mouthpiece to get everyone involved with the consultation some time ago on the improvements that we were looking to make to our historic parish village area here. When we were looking to reduce the speed, we were wondering whether to introduce speed bumps or anything like that. What we did in the end was agree to reduce the speed limit, but that was through consultation. And that consultation happened because it was notified in at least 3 editions of our magazine before it happened, so that everyone was aware of it. Social media can be a godsend, it can be a hindrance to those who manage it. However, we have recently recruited a new member of staff to the parish team, and they will be, I'm sure, looking to deliver on social media. So look out for parish tweets, which will, I would say, are on the horizon pretty soon. Thank you.
Who's got the next question, please?
Jason. Hello, Jason Cronin. My question is about inclusivity. In particular, sorry, my question is about inclusivity, and especially into the honorary police. And I've noticed that in St Wan's and St John's, they have a very full complement of honorary officers. But I've noticed that St Lawrence doesn't have as many people volunteering to become honoraries. What, if elected, would you do to promote recruitment into the honorary police and also to modernise?
What was the last bit, sorry, to promote?
To promote involvement and recruitment into the honorary police and for modernisation.
And modernisation.
Investment.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin. Well, investment in the honorary police is decided at the Rates Assembly, and I know that they have put in their budget for this year a request to increase their budget because they want to provide us all with more smiley faces around the parish, coming back to the road safety that I mentioned earlier. So I recommend that all of you here this evening come to the Parish Assembly, which I believe is being held on the 20th of July, and have your say on the parish rate, on what you want it to be and how you want your money to be spent. But recruitment to the honorary police is not an easy task, because as you well know, sometimes you need to stand for election for the honorary police, and you don't always get elected. You aren't always successful. Having said that, it means you can come back again. So how do we recruit in this parish to the honorary police? We do that very much through word of mouth. The chef de police, the centenniers and myself speak to people on a regular basis as we meet them and as we consider them to be potential honorary police officers. And I must say, I recruited Deputy Guida, who is now the Home Affairs Minister, to the honorary police many years ago, through discussion, through conversation, through chatting with him. And I asked him if he had thought about joining the police, which he hadn't done. But he said, I will go away and think about it. And think about it, he did. And he came back to me and said, yes, I think I have something to offer. I would like to join the honorary police. He was duly elected. He served as centennier. He then decided to move on and stand as deputy and was elected to be one of our 2 directly represented deputies a few years ago. And now look at him. And of course, the honorary police is what I have come up through the ranks as constable's officer, as vantenier. And I know, having chaired the Constables Committee, how difficult it is to recruit to the honorary police, because we had a couple of years ago an island-wide recruitment campaign. You may have seen Centennier Mike Hayden's face around the island as you drove around. And we actually got quite a few officers or expressions of interest from that. Expressions of interest don't always lead to recruitment, because you have to be of a certain nature to be able to be an honorary police officer. You also have to recognise that you are bound by a code of discipline and that you are able to be complained about, if I put it that way, and that puts a lot of people off. When they come to see me and I tell them, you are responsible for your actions and for your words, and any complaint that is made to me as constable, I have no discretion over. I must deal with it. I must report it to the Attorney General. Believe me, that puts some people off.
So I think firstly we need to invest in our honorary police. We don't have massive numbers of honorary police in our parish, and I feel it's very much similar. It's about talking to people, talking to as many people as possible and getting them interested in parish life and seeing actually the relevance of the honorary police and the benefits of it for our parish. Second to that, yes, so it's all about investment. In another parish, St John's, they actually have a waiting list for honorary police, and I think it's from other sitting constables in other parishes actually, looking to see how well things are working in different parishes and learning from them so that we can find different ways to bring that same level of people available for our constable roles as possible. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. From the heart.
Ralph Jenner here. I'm making inquiries about push bikes with cyclists in the roads, cycling up and down St Lawrence and all around the parishes and that. Shouldn't they have a tax paid on them or a licence, what we used to have in St Lawrence? All the parishes had a number plate on the push bike. And our number plate was green, and every parish had their colours and they had numbers on. You've got these cyclists running up and down St Lawrence Main Road, blocking up all the traffic and everything, and they seem to get away with it.
I don't think we'd be looking to taxing cyclists, to be honest. I think there are a lot of people cycling in our parish, and I do understand that we all have, whether we're walkers, cyclists, or driving in a car, we all seem to have issues with each other a lot of the time. But yes, I don't think we'd be looking to tax, especially a form of exercise, which is beneficial for a lot of people. So.
Thank you, Ralph. And your question takes me back to many years ago when I used to go and buy the disc for my bicycle, and that was in St Clement, and I can't remember what colour it was. But you're absolutely right that cyclists do cause some consternation on our roads, particularly on our narrow parish roads. When we want to get past them in our cars and they are riding sometimes 2 or even 3 abreast. We have to, as motorists, take regard of cyclists, and the new legislation recently has put pedestrians, cyclists and horse riders above drivers as road users. But coming back to your question about the introduction of, or the reintroduction of a cycle tax, it would be administratively possible to do that, and I'm wondering whether the reason for you asking this is so that cyclists may be more easily identifiable because they would have a disc on their bicycle. Yes, so administratively we could probably manage that in each parish. We manage to license dogs on an annual basis, so I'm sure we could set that up. Whether it would achieve, Ralph, what you were hoping to, because cyclists ride quite fast these days. There's no limit, there's no speed limit, so there's no prohibition on the speed at which they ride. And I know that down on the avenue, on the cycle track, there have been quite a few accidents there which have actually caused serious injury. Serious injury where people have had teeth knocked out, where people have had bones broken, and where the perpetrators have cycled off into the distance while people are dealing with the victims of the accident. So whether or not it would achieve what you were hoping to, Ralph, I don't know. However, it would bring in extra revenue for the parish. Thank you. And I'm always mindful of that.
My name's Judith Apollo. I'd just like to ask, or go back to the question of housing that the young lady at the back spoke of. and you've just touched on it again with an income stream. The bungalow at the back has been empty for a long, long time. It could have been producing an income stream. Why has it not?
Is that a question for both of us? We both
Both of you, yes, both of you actually. But
No,
I don't
right,
know.
it's impossible for Emily to answer that.
It is, I realise that.
I will answer it.
Um,
Emily, you happy for me to answer that? Thank you, and your question is pertinent, but of course, we have permission to demolish that bungalow because we are looking to provide more sheltered housing for our elderly parishioners. We have a long waiting list and we have applied to build more sheltered housing. So the reason that this particular bungalow has not been let out for some time is because it does not meet current housing regulations. We are unable to let it out. COVID prevented us from bringing to this assembly our plans to deliver more sheltered housing, but those plans include the demolition of that bungalow. If it was worthy of retention, we would not have been given in principle permission to demolish it and to build further sheltered housing units. However, if I am re-elected, as I said at the outset, I will be working with the procureurs to bring our plans forward, to provide more sheltered housing in the parish, to reduce our sheltered waiting list, and thereby, of course, to free up homes for younger families. That's the way it works. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, we don't have much parish land at all. We have very little. We are also restricted on what we build out the back of the parish hall because this building is listed, the church is listed, and the St Lawrence Arsenal is listed. That reduces our ability to build probably what we would like to build. We are constrained by the fact that our land is surrounded by listed buildings, and that impacts upon the planning decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to say something? As we decided at the beginning, there's really a question for a sitting constable, so we'll move on to the next question.
Christine Gill, very quick question. Answer can be just one word. If you're elected and if there was a proposition brought in the States to change to Central European time, what would you vote? For or against? That's all you need to say.
Thank you, Christine. To be honest, I've never actually considered that question before, strangely enough. I think I'd vote against.
You want to say why?
No, I think we should just keep the time frame that we have at the moment. Yeah, I see no need to change to European time.
Oh, thank you, Christine. My memory isn't as good as it was. I think we had a referendum on that, didn't we, many years ago? I think Deputy Pershard took it to the States, yes.
When the Fox went forward and everybody started carrying on about it, what would you vote if there was a proposition tomorrow instead?
I can't remember how I voted last
I
time,
know how you voted.
to be honest. Maybe you'd like to remind me. I can't actually remember, but I do see benefits to changing to Central European time. Of course, there are the things against it are, as a major finance centre, I think, if I remember correctly from the debate some years ago, it would impact upon our global work with the other jurisdictions that we work so closely with. But I think Emily has said no, I'll say yes. And I think that's all you want to know, really, isn't it? Thank you.
I'll come back to you with the closing.
Yes, Sheila Boda. We have the same old things on Facebook every year coming up to the 1st of May about dogs on the beach. It might seem trivial to some people. I'm disabled and I'm finding it very difficult to exercise my dogs. I'm okay if I can get onto the beach. Now, 2 days ago, I was coming along St Albans Inner Road, looked down at the beach, it was dead. There was nobody to be seen from West Park to St Albans because it wasn't very nice weather. Now, I can appreciate when this law was brought in years and years ago that we had a thriving tourist population coming in. We don't have that now. Maybe during the school summer holidays, I could appreciate that, but from the 1st of the May to the end of September just seems too long. Can I have your opinions, please?
Thank you, Sheila. You're quite right. And the Comité des Connétables has discussed this matter on a number of occasions. What I will do is commit to you, if I am re-elected, to bring it up again at the committee and try to get something done about it. Thank you.
Hi there. I agree as well, actually. I live across the road from that beach, and it is, to be honest, there's only mainly really dog walkers for the large part of the year. Yes, I totally agree, actually. Over the school holidays, perhaps not, but it is an extensive amount of time for that particular beach to be dog-free, essentially. So thank you.
Can we take a closing statement, or is anybody else got?
Emma Paul, your thoughts on population policy?
Population policy. I think right now, I just feel it's quite difficult. We obviously have these recruitment issues going on, but there seems to be, very lately, I think it's happened perhaps over even this just last year, there just does seem to be a lot of people leaving. So it'd be almost interesting to know how many people are leaving the island at the moment and where the biggest recruitment problems we're facing in the island, because quite frankly, we also seem to be in the same situation that anyone we need to bring over to fill those gaps in recruitment, we have absolutely nowhere to house them. So it seems we are basically in a crisis on all kinds of levels here, from housing to recruitment to being able to even find accommodation for any staff to come over and fill those gaps. And it's for that reason partially that I'm standing right now, because we are also facing a massive rising cost of inflation for everybody in this island. In the next 6 months, there are going to be people struggling a lot more, and certainly the hospitality industry over this summer is going to be facing either recruitment issues, in which case it's going to really affect our tourism, and small businesses will suffer and be impacted by that also. So I feel there will be a lot more people struggling in this island and in our parish, and we need to start setting up community and looking at ways that we can build support and make sure nobody's isolated and struggling through this particular next period in Jersey.
Thank you, Emma. And as you probably know, we are in the common travel area, and we can't give work permits to British and Irish citizens. But what we can do is give work permits to those nationals from other countries. And my view is that we should be giving those work permits, say starting at 9 months, but for no more than 5 years, when you have the right to settle here. And what we should also be doing is making sure that everyone who comes over on licence is here only because there is no one in the island who is able to do the job for which they are given their licence under the control of housing and work law. Thank you.
We'll go to
isn't a question as such, but I'm rather disappointed to see that the resuscitation machine is at the back of the parish hall underneath the circular staircase. Not very visible. My feeling is it should be at the front because you know where it is then. But it's under the circular staircase at the back, barely visible. And I don't think it's a very good place to have it as...
Thank you, Judy. A point well made. However, it was not the parish that decided where that would be fitted. The decision was made by the people who gave it to us and by the St John's Ambulance. So it was their decision, it wasn't ours. Thank you. No problem at all in reviewing its position. But, yeah. It's something that you could have come to me and asked me as Constable. Maybe Emily would like to make a comment on it as well. Yeah.
I think it's a big issue.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what planning would say if we put it on the front of the listed building. Whatever, but yes, we put it where we were told we made it. But it's nearly a use the week ago. It's nearly a use the week ago. It was in use. Has anybody else got a question they'd like to raise? One more.
Jason Cronin again. If the candidates are successfully elected, do you think we should... Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. If successfully elected, do you think the parish should do more for the community in relation to food banks? Thank you.
If the question is, would the parish do more in relation to food banks? Yeah. Yeah, here at the parish.
As many of you know, I've suggested the community garden. For me, it's about bringing as many people into that as possible, from all of our schools all the way up to seniors, and seeing what other sort of smaller courses we can work on together. I think it would be very beneficial to be planting as much as possible, frankly, because that way we can also provide throughout the winter soup kitchens or salads during the summer. I feel that people will need help with food, especially over this next year because of inflation. Food prices are going through the roof and they will continue to go up. So we do need to be working closely with the food banks as well, and I'm very open to working with as many charities as possible to see what things we can bring to the parish that are of benefit to most people. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Emily answered that question very well. In my role as Constable, though, I have never been approached to be asked to provide a food bank here. And I don't know, Jason, whether you know that we actually do need one in the parish. However, I am very amenable, if I am re-elected, to looking into the provision of a food bank if it was proved to be needed within our parish. Thank you.
Okay, just going to be back there. As you know, I work in psychiatry and I get people back into accommodation and to work. We're dealing with wage poverty at the moment. So a lot of people who are earning wages that have benefits are struggling to exist at the moment. And I'm seeing more and more people having to go to Grace Trust or Salvation Army and St Clement's Parish, or they have a food bank there to access that. And it's absolutely astounding the amount of people in wage poverty. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. We have actually, is it a quick one? Or?
It's a quick one.
This is a very last question.
Okay. Probably don't need a microphone. Anyway, I'm not being rude, but myself included, looking at the age demographic of the people here tonight.
Well, steady where you go.
Okay. Well, myself included, what do the candidates think could be done to make more young people be more interested in politics? Because I've spoken to quite a lot of people around the parish, young people. they're not interested in voting. They don't really care who the constable is. They don't know what they've got no, they don't feel included in it anyway. They say whatever, who gets elected, they'll just carry on as normal. Nothing will ever change. So they don't follow. What do you think you could do to actually inspire young people to come to our hustings, to actually take an interest in politics?
Thank you. Well, one of the initiatives that has been introduced by the State's Graph is to work with primary school children to introduce them to local politics. And as we know, if you get them young, then you can hook them into being interested in such things. And Year 5s debate in their classrooms, they meet their constable, they are interested in their constable. And I know that pupils from St Lawrence School know who I am. They know me as Constable Deirdre. You may not know me as that, but that's what I am known as by certainly pupils of St Lawrence Primary School. And of course, as Constable, I also get invited down to attend different events and to meet with the children at St Lawrence Primary School. So get them young, hook them, get them interested. The other thing that we can do, of course, is to encourage them when we have elections to visit the polling station. And we do that, and we have done that every year that there's been an election since I have been here. And we have already invited them to attend on June the 22nd, so they will observe the proceedings. They will realise how important it is. Again, they are young, but they need to know about it. We also need to probably spend a bit more time educating our young people on our social history, on why we have fair and free elections. And we can also speak to them. I know that Emily's keen on communication, as am I, but we need to speak to them when we meet them. I introduced the War Graves service, which takes place on the Friday nearest Remembrance Sunday every year, when pupils from both St Lawrence and Balroyal School come to meet with me here to talk about the First World War and any subsequent wars, and then we visit the cemetery where we have the graves of those who lost their lives in the First World War. At that time, they ask me questions about everything, anything and everything, and I always answer them and encourage them to become involved in what is going on, not only in our parish, but also to be aware of global issues. That is the role of the constable. It is a part of the role of the constable to encourage our young people to become involved in the parish.
Well, I agree with everything Deirdre just said. It is really about engaging young people. But for me, I mean, I'm not sure about any of you, but we were never taught anything really about our Jersey political system. I don't know if that's still the case, but certainly I feel there's not many who know when they're 16 they're eligible to vote here, which is quite crazy, really. So for me, it is about reaching out and engaging to students of all ages, really. And I think it's about finding relevance for them and their futures as well, and things that are happening in the global sphere that actually might pay more attention to those areas. The environment is a big one, I think, for our youth of today. They are interested in climate change. They are more interested in big things that have been happening and talked about, like well, racism and sexism. You know, these issues are actually coming up among our young, and they are discussing them. So I think it's about just engaging, basically, all people of all levels, but particularly focusing on going into schools as much as possible to have chats, to see where people are standing and what they feel about issues in the island. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm going to close the hustings now. I think thank you all very very much for coming tonight. It's been very interesting and quite wide-ranging in many ways. So I hope you've got the answers, not necessarily you wanted, but at least honest answers to your questions. Thank you all very much.